Hello everybody and welcome back to Leeton. My name's Jason and this channel is all about our journey to become more self-sufficient in veg, fruit, eggs and maybe some honey. Now I'm back on the Polytunnel. It's a kind of a hybrid polytunnel which is part bought and part made, and if you haven't watched the first Polytunnel video where I explain how I'm going to kind of do this, then I'll just very briefly go over it again. So I bought a cheap blow away Polytunnel frame only. I didn't buy the cover as well, I just bought the frame, and that's a bit of the frame there. So my intention is to use a frame from a cheap Polytunnel that I bought off Amazon and reinforce it and try and improve it, and then buy a proper Polytunnel cover from somebody like Premier Tunnels or Northern Tunnels or whatever. Now I did a lot of research before making this decision, and to get the polytunnel that I want, which would be 6 meters by 3 meters, with some bells and whistles, I was looking at well over £1,000 if I was to buy a proper tunnel. And don't get me wrong, the tunnels provided by the main suppliers are very good, but it's just out of my budget, it's out of my price range, so I'm going to have to try and make something that will suffice, if that makes sense. So that's part of the original frame, and the idea is to use parts of this frame, or probably about 90% of this frame, and reinforce it. Now when I did the research on the domestic tunnels from the leading suppliers, the diameter of their tubes is 25mm and this is 25mm, but I'm sure they probably use a thicker wall material because this is quite thin, so it's going to need quite a lot of reinforcing and bracing, etc. And the other problem with this tunnel is it's very low to the ground, as in the headroom isn't particularly high, and I'm 6'1", so I want to be able to move around in there and not keep banging my head all the time, and I want to put some crop bars in, etc. So I'm going to use these steel tubes as foundation tubes, and these are heavy gauge 3mm, 3.5mm wall steel tube that I bought from one of my suppliers. I'm an engineer by trade, and my intention is to use this tube, which will fit inside, and then build the polytunnel off of this using the cheap frame that I bought, and then this will get clamped there with a U-clamp, a U-bolt clamp, and then when the polytunnel's all in, levelled and everything else, probably drill a hole through and bolt these together. So this tube is 1.5 meters long, and I'm going to bury 1/2 meter in the ground and concrete that in. So that's going to give me a really good support all the way around the tunnel. There's 7 hoops, so there's 14 of these, and then I'm going to put a wooden base rail around. So if you can see this black mark here, that's where the wooden base rail will start, that's where it would finish. So it's a 6 by 1.5 inch base rail, and then here and here I will drill some holes for 8mm bolts and bolt the wooden base rail to these tubes. So that's the plan. And the first thing I've got to do is get all these tubes marked up and then try and drill the holes through them. So let's see how we get on. Okay, so that's all the tubes drilled with, it's a 4 or a 5 mil drill bit. There's a pilot hole all the way through, straight through. They're not perfect accuracy, half a mil, a millimetre here and there. I'm going to put clearance hole in these, so I'm going to be using an 8 mil bolt. So I'm probably going to drill a 9 mil hole to give me a bit of clearance to wiggle the bolts through. And then in the timber, I'll probably also put a 9 mil hole or a 10 mil hole, and that just gives you enough to get the bolts through. Don't, if you're using an 8 mil bolt, don't drill an 8 mil hole because you're going to struggle. So that's the next plan. Got the pilot's holes in. Now we'll go for the 9 mil. If it's struggling with the 9 mil, I might go with, say, a 7 mil next and do it in 3 stages, but it's only mild steel, so hopefully a 9 mil should go through. Okay, so that's them all drilled with 8 mil holes right through. What I need to do now, obviously these have got some quite sharp burrs on and things, so I'm just going to run the grinder up and down those with a linishing disc, and then you have to give these a bit of a rub down because they've sat sat in here for quite a while now, and just to get any rust and dirt off them, and then I'm going to give them a paint with some red primer just to try and protect them. Now, I appreciate that these are steel, they're not galvanised, and I can't paint the inside, and eventually they will rust through. But I'm sort of thinking by the time that happens, the wooden base rail and the polythene will probably be past its best anyway. So the tunnel will probably need replacing at that point. So this paint that I'm using is the sort of paint that you would use for undercoating structural steel, and that's actually why we've got it. We put a steel beam in the house where we took a wall out, and it's what we used for that. So I'm going to give it 2 coats, because the first coat doesn't really cover properly, and that should at least waterproof the outside of the steel. Now, I did think about maybe welding a plate on the end at the bottom, basically to give the concrete something to sit on and prevent the tube from being lifted out by the wind. But in all honesty, I don't think that's going to be necessary. And the other thing is, if I weld the plate on the end, that is going to stop moisture leaving the tube. So I've decided not to do that, and just accept the fact that eventually these will rot away, they will rust, but it's going to take quite a while. This is a thick wall tube, or quite thick, and obviously the bottom's going to be encased in concrete, the tops will be in the polytunnel, and sure, there will be some moisture in there, but and I imagine that this cheap frame that I've built, or bought, sorry, the galvanising probably isn't that good on it anyway, so from what I understand, the covers on these polytunnels, even the proper polythene, doesn't last forever. Somebody was telling me that about 10 years is the most that you're going to get out of it, and that's without any storm damage or anything like that. So by then, even though I've bought treated timber for the base rail, by then the timber will have given up, the cover will have given up, no doubt the cheap frame that I've bought will have given up. But the only bit that probably won't have given up is these. So that's what we're going to go with. 10-year lifespan maximum. And I'm not going to top coat these with anything, I'm just going to leave them red. Just going to leave them as they are. So that is the first step in getting this polytunnel sorted out, and by doing this system with these really strong foundation tubes, that will add a lot of stability to the cheap frame that I've bought. It won't improve the strength of the actual frame itself, but it will stop the frame, the whole thing, from being blown away, because it will be firmly anchored to the ground. So in the next video we will be looking at getting the base frame attached to these tubes, getting the holes dug, getting it all laid out, getting the base frame all the way around, set, level and concreted in. Then we can get the frame up. Now we'll probably put the frame up to mark out where we need to dig the holes, but the first step is getting the whole frame and the base frame set in place. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can follow on and see how we progress with this project. And if you're already a subscriber, then thank you very much, because we really have picked up quite a lot of subscribers recently, and we're almost at the big 100, so please help us over that line. I think there's another 5 or something to go, so thanks very much. See you next time.